Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Jace Tan, and I wonder if you remember me and our learning experiences some time back. Now, if you don't worry. I'm here to do a quick refresher so that you are able to attempt one of the questions that Professor Menkoff has assigned for you. Now, the reason why I was there that day was to use a profiling tool, which is called Identity, to help you understand about yourself. Not only that, I did some other further activities. Now, let me just run through very quickly what we did that day. So there were three parts of my activity. The first one was, discussion of self-awareness, self-leadership, and I brought in this word called the Bani, B-A-N-I. It talks about not the VUCA environment anymore, but the Bani environment. That was part one. Now, that was to help you understand that there are so much changes in this world that you need to be aware of, your surroundings, and most especially yourself. Now, in part two, I went in to use identity profiling so that you could understand yourself. Then in part three, we talk about strategies to survive and to thrive in the situation where we are facing lots of uncertainty. Now, I began with giving gratitude. So what I did was I asked you to give me a clap when I asked for one clap. So that was for turning up. The second one was for Professor Menkoff for arranging and for the opportunity. The third one was to thank each other for making that day a wonderful day. So we began with that. Now, I gave you the challenge of giving me the 11 claps, and it sounded like this. Pop, 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 pop. Right? Does it now comes back to you? Does it ring a bell? I further went on to focus on ice breaking. So we had different handshakes and we had the game of evolution, all right, where I saw some of the students going from room to different parts of the room to, shake hands. And they didn't just stay in the spot. And my debrief then at the time was that if you really want to get ahead in life, you really need to shake as many hands as you can. Now, does that all ring a bell now? Good. Let's move on. So I briefly introduced myself. I'm Dr. Jace Tan, and basically I had different researches, but mainly on human development. So I also told you the learning format, it is pretty much hands-on and interactive. And we went into part one. In part one, I explained the difference between VUCA and Barney. All right. And I gave different groups the assignment of the questions. For example, Asterix was tasked to, discuss what is at stake in the Barney environment and how it's been affected. Bumblebee, Flash, Hawk, Thor, and Wolverine each had a different questions. So what you guys did, and I remember very clearly, was you went to different parts of the whiteboard and you jotted down, your discussions and things like that. So that created a good learning environment for you to discuss and share ideas with every single member of the group. Now, that is critical in a teamwork. Moving on, we went into part two, identifying elements of resiliency, adaptability, and aligning to it. So what I did was that I gave everyone a blank copy of the self-discovery graph, okay? And I asked you to examine the traits listed in there. You guys were really quiet. That frightened me because I'm not too sure what you guys were thinking. But many of you were using your phone and Googling what the definitions were. Then I asked you to watch the video of a protagonist. Do you still remember who that was? Did you move on and watch the show when it came out? I hope you enjoyed the show. So in there, I ask you to identify the mental, emotional resiliency and adaptability of the protagonist using the personality traits in the graph. Okay, in the graph, in the piece of the self-discovery graph that you all have. Okay, and they were, listed down here: mental, emotional, and adaptability. Your task was to first look at them, watch the movie. All right, and this was the movie. As this is a quick recap, we are not going to watch the movie. You could go on to YouTube to watch the trailer. Okay. Now that you have watched the movie and you understood the mental, emotional, and resiliency, adaptability of the protagonist, what I wanted you to do was to plot the high and the lows, right? The high and the lows. Now, the reason why we do that is to chart down a person who is like Superman, a person who is successful. What do you think he or she might have in terms of all these traits? So once you've got it done on the graph, okay, you presented your answer and the reasons why you chose that. I ask you to, okay, plot your personality, okay, which that you now have your own personality. So the personality of Superman aside, and now you have your own personality. And I got you to plot in the graphs, and now you have the graph. I hope. Okay. Now, the most important thing that we did that day was to compare your result with that of Superman and how far or how close you are from that of Superman. All right. So in terms of mental, emotional, and adaptability, were you close to Superman, the Man of Steel, or were you far apart? And at that point moment, you should have a realization of the traits that brings you closer to the Man of Steel, or are you very far apart? And that should give you a realization of, where you are right now and what you need to do in order to adjust and adapt yourself. So that was the key point of the lecture that we have that day. All right. So in addition to that, I handed you your basic report and your resiliency and adaptability guide. Now, one of the most important thing that we need to do in life is self-awareness. And hopefully through this small little exercise, you understood who you are and where you are at the moment. And to develop skills or knowledge or mindset to bridge that gap to be a person who is successful. All right. So what you did was then to plot and then compare the differences. Now, the part three was developing strategies to thrive in a Barney world. And in fact, most of the answers you received, or you got were already done in part one. What are the things that you need to do? Okay. So now when you actually go back, one whole big circle, you have just answered the questions of what is at stake in a Barney environment and how is it being affected, what are components of self-awareness, what's the difference between self-awareness and self-leadership, because being self-aware is one thing, but being able to lead yourself and others out of challenges could be the one most important skills that you have. And in fact, I remember that I was sharing with you the story of um, you know Hilton Hanoi, right, or Hilton Vietnam or something like that, whereby they discovered the people who survived were people who were more practical. So don't get me wrong, while it is important to have big dreams, it is also very important to be realistic and look at the situation and find ways around it. Then we also talk about how do you teach people to build mental resiliency, emotional resiliency, and how do you help someone when depression hits. So we had a very fast-paced, exciting day that day, but primarily it is to bring your awareness to the Barney environment. Okay, things are changing, things are moving, and it's important to have self-awareness as well as it's important to know who you are and your gaps from where you are to a person of someone who can go through the requirements to survive the Barney environment. Also, last but not least, I talk about the 7 stages of leadership where people migrate from each stage. But what is more crucial was, the 8 different crises that a person would face through. Now, what is very important is to mentally prepare yourself on all these 8 crises, because when things strike, you will be unprepared for it. So your preparation has to be done before that. Okay. Now, moving on, we also talk about what does a degree guarantee you of. And I quoted a friend of mine who says, a degree doesn't guarantee you a job, all right? Now, going through a degree doesn't guarantee you a job, but it guarantees you a toolbox. And within this toolbox, you have, right now, knowledge of the Barney environment, knowledge of self-awareness, And then the real question is, what problem in the world can your tool solve? And how would that be of value enough for someone to say, hey, that's a great job. I like to hire you. I like to pay you. All right. Now, then the third step is to find the people who are willing to give you a chance to solve that and pay you money for it. Okay. Now, what we then did was we talk about we had this small little short video of a person who changed her ways of redefining her job, her scope, and her life through different ways of providing value. And I concluded last by giving gratitude to Professor Menkov for giving me this opportunity to share some of the knowledge with you. So this is a quick summary of what we have learned that day. You are likely to be given a assignment to write about self-awareness and changes in the environment. I hope this short, quick module help you understand about yourself, where you are, and what are the things that you need to do in order to overcome some of these challenges that you have. So this is Dr. Jace Tan signing off. I wish you all the best and Godspeed.